When I first went into medical school and I went to my interviews to get into university, there was one question when I was prepping for my interviews that we knew we were going to be asked. And that question was, why do you want to do medicine? And although lots of my thoughts about medicine and my job has changed since I was 18, it's actually the reason I want to do medicine is the same now as it was then. And it's because when somebody's experiencing ill health or someone's body isn't being the way it should be for them, no matter what is going on in their life, no matter how much money they have or how little, no matter how much support they have around them, it seems like the world's ending. And trust me, I've met people who are really well off and that have everything they could ever desire, but then you tell them that there's something wrong with their body, and they crumble. And I wanted to be there for people in that difficult time. I wanted to give my patients a good doctor, give them an advocate that could not only explain their disease to them, but also see them through it, and that's why I went into medicine. Now, as Christians, we have a very special gift that will help us to deal with when illness comes, because it really is something that's quite devastating. No matter how you think you're going to prepare for it, and no matter how much you're expecting, someday I might have some ill health, or someone I know might get really sick. No matter how much you know that, when it comes, it always comes as a shock. It always does. But as Christians, we have a special gift. Now, I don't know if you noticed, when I read Romans 6, verse 23, I didn't read the whole verse. It says, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. There's always an end to it, and our special gift as Christians are the promises that God's given us. And those promises He's given all of us, and those that believe and those that don't believe. But the fact that we have the knowledge of it is something that should really help us to hold strong and be resilient. These are all well-known texts that I'm going to give you, because when hard times come, sometimes it's difficult for you to pick up the Bible or to remember some obscure texts, but all of these ones are promises that should be sat on our hearts and we should remember when those difficult times come. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life. We all know that text, we all know that promise. So although we might die now, and although we might have this ill health now, the reason that we should stand fast and be resilient in it is because we know it's all going to come to an end. We know that God sent His Son, Jesus, down onto earth here to live our life, to take all our sins, to die for us, so that one day when He comes back, we'll be able to be with Him in glory. And all the ill health and everything will be passed away. But also, we're still living this life now. Sometimes knowing that thing in the future that's going to happen, sometimes it feels like it's not helping us right now. But God's given us promises that even in the illness, He's still there for us. In Deuteronomy 31, verse 6, it says, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will never leave nor forsake you. And in Philippians 4, verse 13, it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It can be difficult to remember these things sometimes. And this afternoon, I want to encourage you. I'm only doing a very short bit here because we're going to hear from some women who have had some experiences where their health has deteriorated. And they're going to talk about how they're sitting here right now and how they've gotten through it. But this afternoon I want to encourage you to come back, because we're going to be looking at areas of wellness and how we can build wellness in ourselves. We're going to be looking at not just building our relationship with God, but our relationship with other people, looking at our environment and looking at things that we're doing so that we can build wellness, so that we are able to prevent illness, that we are able to cope when we're in illness, and that we are still able to function once the illness passes. And so there's many examples throughout the Bible of people who have been resilient. We can look at the story of Joseph when he was sold into slavery by his family and then ended up going into prison in Egypt. But still he remained resilient and he got through it. And at the end of it, he was still functioning and doing much better than he could ever imagine. But sometimes those stories seem a bit disjointed, seem a bit far away. And that's why today, like I said, we have 3 ladies behind me who are going to share their story with you. Share how they coped when they were in ill health, And I hope that it will encourage you now that if you're going through any problems at the moment, that will encourage you to see how they coped and know that you can cope with God in your life as well. And also, if ever in the future, if right now everything's fine, if in the future this happens, that you're prepared and you have these stories to look back on and know that if they did it, you can do it too. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope that you are blessed. But first, I need you to do something. We don't have a special item today, but we are going to do lots of singing today and praising God and thanking Him for all the blessings that He's given us.
Good afternoon, church. This afternoon, I want to talk about resilience. That is slightly different from Amanda. First of all, what is resilience? According to the Oxford Dictionary, the explanations are as follows: the capacity to recover from difficulties, depression, and adversity, or the ability to recover easily, quickly from illnesses, shock, and adversity, as she had mentioned. My definition, however, is the inner strength, the coping mechanism given to us by God, particularly to much of us black women. I'm not saying that the men have got resilience, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm thinking because we as black women have gone through so much with our children and everything else, and we always manage to cope. Not on our own, but with the help of God. God gives us strength and resilience through faith in Him. When we go through our ordeal, for example, we get a diagnosis from the doctor that we have some incurable disease or illnesses, the loss of a child, a family member, or any devastating news. Some people lose hope, give up, but others have that inner resilience, the capacity to cope, that help, that hope, that keep them going. I truly believe that resilience, hope can only come from God who sustains us. I consider myself to have such resilience, like most of you. Over the past 4 years, I have personally experienced difficult medical issues. In 2015, I started with back problems. I was off work for over 10 months. Then I decided to go on a cruise to the West Indies. Promptly became ill and had to be airlifted to a neighboring island where I had some heart surgery. I underwent the surgery, and when I came, I had a pacemaker fitted. After the surgery, the surgeon came to me in the morning, and I was recovered slightly, and he said to me, "Madam Brown, you're a miracle, but you should not be alive." I replied to him, "God, give me that strength." In March of this year, I went on another holiday to the Caribbean, thinking that the climate would do me good and it would help my current condition. Again, I became ill and ended up in hospital. This time, the doctor came to me after a couple of days and he said to me, "If you had traveled on the Saturday that you were admitted to hospital, you probably would have died on the plane from a respiratory arrest." What can I say? This is just a brief synopsis of the things and medical conditions that I've undergone. I can't go through all of them because you probably wouldn't believe. I suppose I have to, I have been given recommendations from the doctors over the past and saying that loads of things that I shouldn't do. I'm not supposed to mop, I'm not supposed to iron, I'm not supposed to do anything that I use the intercostal muscles excessively. But if I didn't do that, who was going to do it for me? I have my children, I have to wash, I have to iron, I have to do all those things. So, you know, that inner resilience that we talk about, that kept me going. I just kept doing all the things that tell me not to do. I do more of them. And I'm here today, you know. That voice inside you that said, "I give you the strength to cope. Carry on, because I'll never leave you alone." Amen. You know, and I hear that all the time. That's the resilience, that the voice, as I said, that tells you to, when you're at your lowest ebb, that He will give you strength. Sometimes when I look around the congregation, I've seen many women who have gone through all that. I don't want to embarrass anybody by calling names, but I think they all have that resilience. It's every Sabbath, regardless of what they're going through, they're here. The strength of God.
Praise God.
The inner resilience that keeps us going through the grace of God, who sustains us, also keep you going, and me, and all of us. I have a little proverb here that says, the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me, and the presence of God watch over me. Whenever I am, wherever I am, whatever situation, God is there with me, with all of us. Resilience is having faith in God, knowing that He will never give you more than you can cope with, no more than you can bear. That He's promised to all of us. May we continue to exercise that inner resilience that is within us, that comes from God, who strengthens us. God bless you.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Jean. Can we have another amen for that as well? Next we have a testimony from Sister McIntosh. She's going to share with you some of the things she's seen.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Amen.
My journey is a bit different from Sister Jane. My journey is a bit different from Sister Jane. It was in 1995 when my sister passed away, and it was such a quick thing. And at that time, I was working at Penn Hospital, which I worked there for 20 years. I was on nights, and I was running around, going down to my sister, cooking, taking things for the children. And then in 1996, just after she was buried, I felt really ill. I felt weak. I was at work as well, and I felt so weak. Even when I was tying up the laundry bag, I was so weak. I didn't know what was happening to me. I could not understand. But one thing I usually say to myself, as my mother always say, I would love to see my children, they grow up before I passed away, and also my grandchildren as well. And I live to see my children grow up and take their part in life. But I still have my grandchildren around me. And I was so ill. Nobody knows, so here I was, except God really. Anyhow, I decided to go to London to visit my daughter and my grandchildren. And it was on the Friday I went down. And I decided that we're going to go to church on the Sabbath with Elaine, Beverly, and our children. But during the night, I felt so ill. I had a high temperature. I was shaking. I didn't know what it was. And the other says, Mom, I've got to take you to the hospital. I says, no, I don't. I want to come home. Anyhow, they rang my son Donald, and he came and he picked me up about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I came home. And when I came home, I was confused. I didn't know where I was. My husband had just to lead me to the bathroom and did everything for me. And then the doctor came the morning to see me, and he said to me, Mrs. McIntosh, you'll have to go and have a blood test. And I went to have this blood test. And when I had the blood test, it came back to say I had thyroid, underactive thyroid. I did not know that underactive thyroid was so bad. My heart was racing away. That just put me on some tablets to calm my heart down. But while this was going on in my life, I still did not question God. Why is this happening to me? But one of my favorite texts in the Bible, in Psalms 27, always said, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Why should I fear? Why should I be afraid? He's the strength of my life. Anyhow, when the result came back, I still feel really ill. And I could remember one day I was at home and I was saying, why am I cast down? I have faith in God. And I remember one day while I was there, I noticed all the middle of my hair was coming out. And I was wondering what this was. I was so tired. Everything was not very good. And I rang Dr. Noble and I said to her, have I got cancer? Because that was in the back of my mind, wonder if I'm suffering from cancer. But when you have got thyroid problem, it can be cancerous as well. So they put me on some tablets, cardamazole, that helped stop my heart from racing. And then the doctor at New Cross decided I've got to have the radium dye. So I went to the Dean's Ward and I had the radium dye. And this allowed me to feel a bit better. But little did I know that when you've got radium dye, it makes your thyroid instead it's go underactive because it's easier to treat. But all along this, when I was going all through this, I had my family support, I had my children, I had my husband, I had my in-laws. And when you're going through things like this, you need somebody around you. And I decided, that I won't go back to work. And I was off work for 1 year. At that time I was 59, and I went up to work to see the managers, and they say to me two things. It's either I retire or come back to work. He says, no, I didn't want to come back to work. And when I was there, I felt so agitated. And then Mr. Silk, the manager, said to me, Nurse McIntosh, will come and to see you at home. And they came at my house and they interviewed me and they did everything for me. But the God that we serve, He's an awesome God. He promised that He'll never leave you nor forsake you. And at that stage when I was going through, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die because I did not know what was wrong with me. But thank God, I got up, as an instance, I got up and I went and signed on the agency. I felt a lot better. I got up because I'm the person that is always rushing around doing this, never sit down. I got up and I went back to work and I worked at New Cross until I was 74. And I want to give God the praise and the honor and the glory. But during those times I was praying, I had people in the church was praying for me, friends was praying for me. And I'm the person, I don't let things get me down for long. If I'm down today, tomorrow I'm up. And I'm just giving God the praise for where He has brought me from. He's brought me from a very, very long way, because I could have died. If I didn't take this up quickly, I could have died, because when you have got overactive thyroid, you can have an heart attack. The doctor told me. And then my other journey was, I had another journey in my life. It was when I decided, after I worked at New Cross for 74, from I was 74. And during that time, I promised that we were going to go to Jamaica. I was going to take my children then with me, and my grandchildren, to see where I've been brought up in St. Catherine. Anyhow, I was going to work still, and I was having this dreadful pain in my legs, terrible pain in my legs. And I went to the doctor, and I said to the doctor, he was a locum doctor, I says, I've got this terrible pain in my leg, what is it? He says, it's sciatica. I says, no, I says, my dad had thrombosis in his leg, and he died from that. My sister had thrombosis, and my brother had thrombosis. And he still said, anyhow, I could remember I went to work that Monday morning, and I came home, and my daughter Sharon says to me, Mom, you better go and see Dr. Noble. And I went down to see Dr. Noble. And Dr. Noble said to me that, Mrs. McIntosh, your leg isn't red, it isn't swollen, but because you're going to travel, I've got to send you for a blood test. And she sent me for this blood test. And the next day, the blood test came back so quick, in 2 days. And actually I went to work that same day, and I came back home. And when I came, I saw a letter dropped through the mail, I need to come down to the surgery. And I quickly got ready and went down. And when I went down, the doctor says to me, you need to go to New Cross straight away. Something's wrong with you. I said, what it is? He didn't want to tell me. And I just break down and cry. And he said to me, suspected blood clot in your leg. And I says, well, I've been coming down here so long, and you only just found out. And I went to New Cross, and they took all these tests, and I had a clot in my leg. And then I couldn't go to Jamaica, and even when I didn't have to go to the hospital, because I did not go to my lungs really, but they came to my home and for 6 days, and they looked after me, give me the Clexid injection and everything. And my husband couldn't go to Jamaica either, he had to stay with me, but the rest of my family went. And you know, God is good really. Because even when Dr. Noble said to me, I said, can't I go? The exact word Dr. Noble said to me, Mrs. McIntosh, you'll come back in a coffin. Because I knew if I traveled to Jamaica with a blood clot in my leg, I would have died. But you know what? I did go, and God has kept me here for a reason and for a purpose. Not just for my family alone, but for other people. And you know, my desire is to serve the Lord really, because all the things that the devil allows to come upon you, you know, sometimes we think it's God, but it's not God who sends the disease upon us really. It's all since came in the world. And you know, whenever I don't understand what's happening to me in my life, I just close my eyes. I used to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and says, God, all these plans are left in your hand. And you know, today, they say I've been 82 years of age. Amen. And when I had all my illness, I was 59. And you know what? God is so good, because I can do everything for myself. I'm not boasting, but I'm just giving God the praise. And to say, when God is not ready for you, He will not take you. And because I know I'm here for a reason and for a purpose. And so, I'm saying to everyone here, no matter what you go through, God is always there for you. It says in Isaiah 43, it says in Isaiah 43, but now thus saith the Lord, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I call thee by thy name, thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I'll be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the fire kindle upon thee. So we have got all these promises, and we haven't got to fear, because God will never, never give us more than we can bear. And the good thing about it, when you're a Christian, when you serve God, when you pray, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Amen.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. And yes, I'm here to share my testimony. You know, sometimes when people hear about cancer, it puts the fear in them. And they even refer to cancer as the big C. But the only big C that I know is Christ Jesus. Nothing else comes anywhere near that. Yes, I was diagnosed in in 2005 with breast cancer. And it came at a time when I'd only recently I'd lost a sister with that condition. So therefore, my thought was, I wasn't even thinking that much about me, but I was thinking about my mother, who had already lost a daughter. So when I was told I had cancer, breast cancer, I thought, okay, right. But then, if I go back a bit, this was not my first contact with cancer. I had bone cancer in 1995. And fortunately, they said it was slow growing and low grade. So what they did an experimental operation at the time. That was in 1995. They did an experimental operation, which meant that they just took the joint of my ankle and the bone, my tibia bone. So I put a metal prosthesis in. And I did not need to have chemotherapy or radiotherapy at that time. But with this breast cancer, I had to go through all of them. And you know, man's treatment for cancer is cutting, burning, and poisoning. And they threw it all at me. But you know, in all that, as the text says about Joseph, the Lord was with Joseph, and the Lord was with me. Because it's as though I knew, put it this way, I was doing a degree at the time in complementary medicine, and one of my assignments, I was on in my first semester, and one of the assignments I had to do was looking at how a complementary therapy could treat a condition, and I chose to look at cancer and aromatherapy because that's what I specialize in. And so whilst investigating, researching cancer and all its therapies, what is useful, I also came across a place in Bristol called the Bristol Cancer Retreat. It is now called the Penny Bron. And I read up a lot about that particular place, and they treat cancer from a holistic perspective, whereas the medical doctors just look at it from a medical angle. But in this place, a Bristol Cancer Retreat, they looked at it from a holistic approach. And I was also able to look at the diet. And if you Google that, you'll find that the Bristol diet is actually one that has been researched for cancer. And so therefore, when I was diagnosed, I actually went there. And it's just to show that the leading of the Lord, you know, when it says that before you call, He'll answer. He already had given me that opportunity. So therefore, when I was diagnosed, and after I've had all my treatment, I then decided I would go to this place where they do this detox. And what they said is actually detox, because when you go through chemotherapy, they put a lot of poison in your body. And it actually really makes your body worse than when it first started. So therefore they had to get rid of all really cleanse your body from all the impurities from the chemotherapy. But having said that, it's just to show how the Lord has guided my life, that He was able to show me this place before I even needed it. And I went there, and what they did for me. But my family, God bless my mother, my brother Herbert, and my church family, they were there praying for me. Because what I did when I was diagnosed, I called the elders of the church like we had managed to do, and they came, and the pastor said to me at that time, would I want it to be announced in my local church? And I said, yes, but I said, I will do it myself. And I went up on that Sabbath morning and I told the brethren what I wanted. I wanted faith people. I want people who was able to speak truth to me in this situation. And you know, the Lord, He shut up the mouths of those who had nothing positive to say. And He opened up the mouth of those who had all the positive encouragement. And I was encouraged throughout all that. And I believe that was what had kept me, knowing that there were people there. Because at times when I didn't even know what to do, didn't know what to say. And you know, when you wake up in those nights, in the midnight hour, and you're confronted with your mortality, and you think and you say and you wonder, but God's promises, and this is what I did on a daily basis. I went through that Bible and I looked for all the healing scriptures and I made them my own. And one of my favorite was the woman with the issue of blood. And I read that from The Desire of Ages with Sister White, and what that woman did. And I literally touched the hem of Jesus' garment. And that's what has brought me through. My husband, he's not a Seventh-day Adventist. He's from the Pentecostal persuasion. But I tell you, when that man prayed, he reminded me, he says, surely by his blood you are healed. And he says, no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. And he comes out with all the things that I'd forgotten. And he reminded me of what the promises of God. He says, you will not die, but you will live to proclaim. And I'm here today. And you know, God is good because it's not for Him that any of us should perish. You know, it takes us through. It does not say it's not going to stop us from going through certain situations. But He takes you through. And I was there to place my hand in His as He took me through that journey that I went through. And I look back at my journey, and in a sense, it has strengthened me. Because I'm able now to give encouragement to those that will be following behind. There have been many that had followed behind me. Some of us did not make it. But God has seen fit for some reason that He spared me, that I'm here today. And I pray that, you know, you've heard the testimony of all those three women. And I pray that you will have a takeaway message. Because if you think about it, God is the healer. Yeah, I've been through all these things that the doctors have given me, but ultimately it wasn't them that healed me. It was God that healed me. And I'm here today to tell you that, to give you that testimony. You know, one day, one of us, or anytime now, we might get a bad news. I got that bad news. You got cancer. The doctor even said she was afraid. She said, I'm afraid to tell you.